Today's podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. Texas recently passed groundbreaking legislation to begin teaching patriotism and the Bible in the classroom. Julie Pickren, a member of the Texas Board of Education, will explain how this ruling will teach important history, raise learning standards, and make our children competitive with other nations once again. Stay with us. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Hi, moms. I'm Debbie Corlettis, your host, and welcome once again to the Moms for America podcast. I'm so glad that you're joining us again this week. Every week, we gather together to inspire, encourage, and educate moms in their journey through motherhood. Well, this week, another incredible episode coming up. Let me tell you about it. Julie Pickren says that when it comes to her current vocation, God has a sense of humor. A graduate of the Wharton School of Business, Julie thought that corporate America was going to be where she was going to use her gifts and her talents. But all that changed when she was recruited to join the school board in her district for her financial expertise. What she thought was going to be a short-term project turned into a new career when Julie literally fell in love with education. She realized that well-educated students become knowledgeable adults who will then defend and preserve our republic. Well, we are delighted to have Julie joining us on the podcast here at Moms for America. Julie, I'm so glad you were able to stop by and talk about this incredible victory. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast.
Good morning, Debbie. What an honor it is to be with y'all this morning. And, I just love Moms for America. So many wonderful women.
Thank you. Well, we love you, and we've been able to partner with you on these initiatives, and our moms there in Texas have just jumped in wholeheartedly as well because they're concerned clearly about education. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about your family. I have met your family at a couple events, and we always like to get to know everybody's tribe.
Yes, the Lord just has blessed me with an incredible family. My husband is one of the leaders in America in nuclear energy and in areas to keep America safe, right? National security. And my children, the Lord's blessed me with two incredible sons, two incredible boys. My son, my oldest son, it looks like he's going to be probably the youngest graduate of Liberty University in their history. He's about to graduate from their School of Business, their dual credit program from their School of Business, and he's 15.
He's
So,
15.
yeah, and that the wonderful thing is that both my kids are enrolled at Liberty right now, 15 and 13, and that's coming from a public school education. When public education is done well, is done right, it has so much benefit for a lot of families. So my kids came to, like I said, they came to Liberty. They came to achieve this greatness from a public school education.
And chips off the old blocks there, mom and dad too, we see when we invest in our children where they can go and what they can do. So congratulations to you, mom and dad, for your work with your kids, and to God be the glory 100%. But wow, that is really
Absolutely.
something to brag about. All right, let's talk a little bit about your back end of story, your back end story. You went from corporate America into the education field here, and we're going to take this ball all the way down to the end. But really, this really wasn't you didn't say, hey, education's my field. This is what I want to do. Corporate America was your choice, and you were moved out of that really divinely.
Yes, God has a sense of humor. Yes, my background of a very strong business background, and in my local school district, before I was elected to my state position, I was so blessed to serve at my local school board, to be a trustee of my local independent school district. And so my school district that I served on the board was the fastest growing school district in Texas at the time. So to put that in perspective, every summer we were adding between 1,000 and 1,500 children every summer to the school
That's
district.
incredible. Right. Yeah. Unheard
So,
of.
that yeah, it's wonderful to live in a state that's booming, but then it also has some challenges that you have to address along the way, right? Our fabulous Texas economy. But anyways, so it presented some challenges. It presented some financial challenges. When you're the fastest growing school district in Texas and you're building schools as fast as you can build them, and there's some financial challenges associated with that. So
Sure.
leaders from my area, leaders, business leaders, moms, dads, leaders in my community asked me to run for school board for the financial reasons to help the district out, bring in some business background, financial background. And so that's what I did. The first year I was elected, had a fantastic first year as a local school board trustee, helped restructure the school district's long term debt that for, I believe it's 28 years, the taxpayers are saving $12 million a year, built 9
Wow.
new schools with lowering the tax rate twice. And so,
How do you do that? That's incredible, right?
well, what I tell a lot of people, but not everyone likes to hear this, but it's the truth, is that it's not a funding problem, it's a spending problem,
Uh-huh.
right? The problems that we have in education with around education finance. So, and then also during that time, 2 tax rate compressions, building 9 new schools, and my teachers were among the highest paid teachers in the entire state of Texas. So, when your priorities are the children and your priorities are your teachers, great things can happen. It's whenever we get off into the weeds, right? Then that's
Yeah.
when things tend to go awry. But had a wonderful first year serving, for my school district, for my local ISD.
Mhm.
And then that's when really, I'm going to say, the calling of God kind of kicked in, was going into my second year of serving as a trustee, because I realized that education, specifically public education, is really one of the legs of the stool that holds up our constitutional republic.
Correct.
It
Right.
really hit me the importance of what children are learning day in and day out, and how public education is the key to our children being able to live the American dream, because it
Hmm.
says it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, who your family is, what your background is. Everyone, if with a great education, can live the American dream. And then also just to preserving patriotism and preserving a love for America and a love for Texas. So
Right. And let's
that's when I
let me just talk about that too, because this is something that all of us know we have lost. We have lost being able to trust the materials in the schools. We've had to, as parents, investigate all levels of it. And what's been happening is basically it's become an indoctrination camp for the left, and America has been thrown to the winds as far as its heritage and its history. And you were seeing this.
we have absolutely, Debbie, you are spot on. Really around the 2014, 2015 is where we saw this major shift in
Right.
education. I know it had been building up until that point, but really around that time frame is when we saw just this radical movement in education, where we saw woke indoctrination starting to come into our schools in a grand way, on a massive scale.
Right.
Right. We had the Obama administration, when I was a trustee, the Obama administration sent a letter to our school district saying that we had to make our restrooms and locker rooms gender neutral. That was 2000, either the end of 2015
Right.
or beginning of 2016, somewhere around that in that school year. So, we saw really education and the woke indoctrination really coming on in a massive way. That's
Hmm.
also when we saw the huge push for the LGBTQ plus, right? The transgender movement. That's when we really saw a push for children being able to choose their own gender, parents kind of getting locked out of that decision or locked
Right.
out of that process. So that's when the 2014, 2015 is when things really started to radically change. And also, that's when parents started to realize and grandparents started to
Hmm.
realize that that's not the school I went to. That's not the education I received. And so we've had this generational trust built within our communities, with our schools, But unfortunately, because of woke indoctrination, that generational trust has been broken. And now
Right.
we have to work, people involved in education have to work doubly hard to get that trust back.
Yeah, which takes us exactly to what you and your board addressed legislatively throughout Texas. I mean, starting in your area, but you were reviewing materials. Let's talk about the national publishers and the problems that you saw with this. What do you call the national publishers? Is that like an organization? Is it a clearinghouse? Let's describe this because this is where all the materials come from that go across the country, right?
Yes, so national publishers are your very large publishing houses that develop, write, and publish instructional materials for public education throughout America. There's a handful of publishers that really kind of own this space all the way from New York to California, Texas to
Mhm.
Montana. I mean, they kind of own this space nationally. And the problem that we've been having, that we've been seeing in education, is in especially in my state. Okay, we've been passing wonderful education laws, banning critical race theory in social studies, banning critical race theory across all subjects, banning obscenities and pornography, requiring patriotism, requiring teaching of patriotism, requiring using the Bible as an instructional textbook. The Texas legislature has been very active, passing wonderful laws. The problem that we've had is that these national publishers, the people that kind of own this space, right?
Hmm.
They're providing instructional materials throughout the country for public education. They just would not comply with our Texas laws, our Texas Constitution, and that's kind of the rub that we've been having is getting compliance with our state laws.
So, right. So now like you said, you're passing these great laws, great ideas, pushing forward with such an important agenda, helping our kids be educated properly, but you don't have the materials. And no one's
Exactly.
providing the materials. No one
That's
wants to touch
exactly
it.
right. That's exactly right. I'll give you an example. Last November, we were deciding on new science textbooks for our schools. Well, the science textbooks, and we were also deciding for personal financial literacy, a new course that we're offering in our high schools. And so, reading through these instructional materials being offered, one of the textbooks was going to teach a command economy. If your listeners or watchers don't understand a command economy, that's the new term for communism. Okay, it's a centralized economy ran by the government. It's now, communism's negative, right? We don't want to use that word anymore. So now we're going to use something called a command economy.
I just want to go back to this because this is not a term that everybody's talking about. This is something you found. This is what they do, right? They slip it in, they rename communism command economy, right? Repackaging it with a bow and feeding it to our kids.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what the woke indoctrination does. They take these horrible beliefs and ideas and they just repackage it and make it sound so wonderful for our children. And so that's what happened with communism. Last November, I reviewed a textbook that talked about a command economy. Now, a command economy is communism, it's a centralized government control of the economy. And so, how it was defining a command economy was a benevolent form of economic system that ensures that everyone has equal access to goods and services. And so, when you
Crazy.
hear that as a child, you think, "Oh, that's wonderful. A command economy is wonderful." But for us, the people that understand history and know history, we know that almost 100 million people died at the hands of communism in the 20th century. So for us to understand history and know history, a command economy, communism is anything but benevolent. Okay. But
Right.
the children, they don't know that. They haven't been taught that yet. They don't understand the death that communism brings to people, to families. And so now this woke indoctrination would teach them that a command economy is the best form of economy, not a free enterprise system that we all know and love and right is constitutionally sound in Texas. Follows our state laws. So, that's one of many problems. The other problem that we've had is is, a lot of these national publishing houses, they have either signed the UN's 2030 sustainability pledge,
Yes. Yes.
or they have these very woke ESG, environmental social governance pledges in place. And what parents need to understand is that these very large instructional publishing houses, when they sign those United Nations 2030 sustainability goals pledge or put these ESG policies into their corporate policy,
Mm-hmm.
then it's embedded into their instructional materials. It's
Yeah.
embedded. It's what they teach now to your children and to your grandchildren. And so that's just, a little bit of what we have been dealing with on adopting and reviewing instructional materials. You know, whenever
Yes.
you get whenever you get a textbook that says that no one has a right to own farmland, ranch land, or waterways, that all of that should either be owned by the government or by community, that no one in the private ownership, well, that violates US Constitution and Texas Constitution right there.
When you,
So
yeah, when you talk about this UN sustainability goals, I mean, is this something that, um, how do they embed this? How do they word this? How do they package this? Well, that was one great example that you just talked about. But so they've signed some type of pledge that they're going to include this, but they write it so it sounds passive and pleasant, but it's not clearly.
right, like one of the UN 2030 goals is population control. Okay. So, you know, I heard this even with my own children. Okay. So when I talk to you, I'm not just talking to you as, an elected official or, businesswoman. I'm talking
Right.
to you as a mom because when I've in my own family, when we would have dinner at night, it was always
Yeah.
important to my husband and I for us to eat supper at night as a family with our children. Still is important to us. And I felt like my children weren't my husband and mine's culture anymore. I felt like our
Mm,
dinner times were becoming a little contentious because my kids would say things like, Mommy, you need to sell your SUV. You're killing the earth. I would think, where does that come from? Where's that
yeah.
coming from? Or, Mommy and Daddy, we need to figure out something because there's too many humans on the earth, and the earth can't sustain itself. We need to do something. There's too many humans. Why would an 8-year-old little child think
Right.
about there's too many humans on earth? Like,
Right.
why would that even ever come into their little mind? Right? I
Exactly.
mean, their mind
Exactly.
should be filled with hope and wonder and
Right.
curiosity, not thinking about I've got like there's too many people in my neighborhood who's got to go. Right? I
Right.
mean, it's this woke indoctrination is really
Right.
ruining our children. But it started to become contentious even in my own family because of the instruction that was creeping into my household just through their education every day. And so
It's
that
so
was one
true.
thing.
When you're saying that, I just was thinking back, even just with my oldest, who's now 27. I remember like seventh, eighth grade, they could pick any cause, big world out here, right? To champion and draw about and write about. And my son came home and he did Save the Earth, which of course we all want to save the earth, right? But
Absolutely.
it was 90% of the class was doing, green. No, there's nothing else in the world to even consider. There's only Save the Earth. I said, we're going to think beyond this, the other 90% of the class, but it's so true. It's what they're being fed. It's the only thing that matters in the school is their agenda.
Right.
Nothing else
Right.
matters.
And so, like the science textbooks that were presented to us last year, those science textbooks were so pro electric cars and so anti oil and gas. Okay, well, the Texas economy, oil and gas is the backbone of our economy. It's roughly related to 10% of our GDP, and I think about 13 to 15% of all of our jobs and small businesses in some way are related to it. So, whenever you're going to teach a child in Texas that oil and gas is evil and they're going home to parents who work in that industry,
Right.
what are you doing to that family?
Right.
And then also on the other side, when you are teaching about electric vehicles and wind farms and solar farms and everything, batteries and what have you, that's the cleanest way to go. You're never mentioning all of the diesel fuel and all the oil and gas it takes to manufacture all of that and to keep it all running. So, it's just the woke indoctrination of of our children. Unfortunately, Debbie, what's happened in education is that our children have become social experiments for the progressive left.
Right.
That is what's happened
You nailed it.
because,
Yep.
you only have so many minutes a day to educate a child. Why would you spend those minutes educating a child against what their family business is, or against what their parents do for a living, or against what's the backbone of their state's economy, or against what the US Constitution or the Texas Constitution says is true and noble? Whenever you could spend those minutes truly educating a child and creating a critical thinker, when you really could,
Hmm.
educate a child using great works of Western literature, or enriching their vocabulary, or teaching them higher math. What's really gone wrong in education is that there are minutes during the day. There is time spent during the day on woke indoctrination instead of education. And so that's what we're working to fix. That's
Yeah.
what Texas is as we say in Texas, we're taking the bull by the horns.
That literally. Yes. And in Texas, when they do it big. So I mean, this is groundbreaking for for the entire country. But again, just reviewing this with our mom. So the national publishers material was not capable or even in line with what your law passed. It was not really not even enough to continue their curriculum through the national publishers. So you had to then start writing your own. And back to that other little point that we just talked about the schools indoctrinating the kids. We've had moms come home that are biracial families, and they were so convinced in school that their mom or their dad was a racist. And all that came from the school. You talk about, I'm just on the heels of what you said earlier, splitting families racially
Absolutely.
to, just absolutely crazy, crazy stuff coming from the school. So let's go back to this. So Texas passes this rule. This is very recent. This is hot off the press here, that curriculum must have you're going to say it better than I am, but a patriotic theme, right?
Yes. Absolutely. We had a House bill passed a couple of years ago by Dr. Greg Bond, and House Bill 4509. Wonderful piece of legislation passed in our state that says that all instructional materials adopted by our state board of education and our local school districts in what we call tier one subjects. Tier one are your core subjects: English,
Mm-hmm.
math, science, social studies, must have a patriotic theme in the instructional materials. If they don't have a patriotic theme, then they are not compliant with Texas state law.
All right, moms, don't go away. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to hear more from Julie Pickren. Hi, moms. I'm excited to share some news about our new sponsor, the Herzog Foundation. We know you're passionate about raising patriots and empowering your children with the best education possible. And the Herzog Foundation shares that passion. They're dedicated to promoting liberty through education freedom and helping parents like you choose the best educational path. They offer a powerhouse of resources designed to support families and schools alike. Whether you're ready to dive in headfirst to the world of education or simply looking for more ways to empower your child's learning. From free training events to their must read online publication, The Lion, they're committed to keeping you informed about what's happening in education. Also, if you've ever thought, moms, about starting your own Christian school or co op, their School Box online course will give you everything you need to get started on the right foot. Again, we are so proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation, and we encourage you to explore all their amazing tools and the insights that they offer. So go ahead, visit herzogfoundation.com to learn more. You won't want to miss these incredible resources. Again, find it all out at herzogfoundation.com.
I've never really felt comfortable sharing pictures of my kids on social media. Then I found Tuvu, a premium social app with an actual, authentic community. No bots, no one trolling me or my family. Just clean, wholesome content you can trust.
Welcome back, moms. Before we continue our interview with Julie Pickren about the state of Texas becoming their own publisher of school materials, which is just an amazing story, I'd like to invite you real quick here to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. And share this with your friends, your mama friends in your circle. What a great story for moms to know about. There's hope for education. Also, if you have any ideas or topics for a podcast, I would love to hear from you. And how you do that is you just email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. I would love to hear from you. Lastly, I also want to invite all of our moms listening to join our movement here at Moms for America. Join this family. It's an incredible sisterhood. We are here to help and support you. It's moms like us uniting all across the country to fight for our faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. How do you join the movement? You go to momsforamerica.us, sign up for our newsletter, check out all of our material there. We have so many resources available for you. So please check us out at momsforamerica.us. Now, where do we get what do you do? What do you do for material? You basically have to write your own. How long did this take? What was that process like? And that's called the Blue Bonnet Learning. That's the
Yes,
program.
Blue Bonnet Learning Materials. So whenever, we had two wonderful Supreme Court cases in 2022 that kind of cleared the field for us to do this. We had, of course, there's the Coach Kennedy case that really had a huge impact on this. And then also there was another case, I believe it bubbled up to the Supreme Court. I believe it came out of Maine that cleared the way for using the Bible as instructional text
Look
in
at
Tier
that.
1 subjects. And so those two great Supreme Court cases, and then couple that with the challenges that we had been having, just to kind of put the challenges in perspective for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we reviewed for adoption the science textbooks last year, in order to make them compliant with our state laws and our level of quality that we expect, there were over 30,000 edits.
Look
So
at that. Yeah.
So that's the level. It's not like, oh, there's a bad page here or there's a bad
Right.
paragraph there. We're talking about over 30,000 edits. When you get to that
Look at
level of
that.
edits, you're basically rewriting instructional materials. I mean,
Yes.
you're having to recompose it. So
So you knew you had
um,
to start over, and
we
look at
knew
this.
we had a
Yeah.
problem. And the great thing is, Governor Abbott has created this wonderful Texas economy. Our state, unlike California, that's running billions of dollars in deficit, Texas is running billions of dollars in the plus. Right? We're
Nice.
doing huge tax refunds, property tax refunds for people, and putting a lot of money in education, put more money in public education than we ever have. Our last session, I believe it was 52% of our entire state's budget. I mean,
We're
billions of
jealous. We're
dollars.
jealous. We're jealous. We're not in Texas.
I know. I'm sorry. I can't help but brag on my state. But anyways, but out of that abundance came the funding for Texas for the first time ever that I'm aware of, a state becoming a publisher of instructional materials. So out of that abundance came paying for the development, the writing, and the publishing of our new Texas instructional materials for all Tier 1 subjects. That's the goal. That's what the law says. And so now we have started
Incredible.
embarking on that mission. And that's what you're referring to as the Blue Bonnet Learning Materials.
Wow. So let's talk about some things that will be unique to the Bluebonnet Learning materials. So some of them I have the Golden Rule here, fourth grade reading C.S. Lewis. Tell us about some of the exciting things that we can see in curriculum that have been excluded that maybe you and I grew up with, or our parents, that it has been taken out and omitted for crazy reasons. But tell us what's coming back.
Oh, Debbie, I'm so excited about this. I'm telling you, this has been, as we'll say, it wasn't easy, right? I mean,
No, I can't
this
imagine.
was we set two rubrics in place for this process. One rubric was set by the Texas Education Agency, which is called a quality rubric, which measures the quality, the academic rigor, and the quality of the product. Okay. Then we had another rubric that we set in place that was adopted, that was written and adopted by the Texas State Board of Education, which was called our suitability rubric. And that rubric was the gatekeeping document for all of our state laws, the U.S. Constitution, and the Texas Constitution, to make sure that it was compliant and that also that it had the rigor. And so between these two documents, I'm telling you, the Bluebonnet materials are fabulous. It's, because even like I told you, I came from being a school board trustee, and even from being a trustee to where I am now, so blessed to serve the state and serve, my constituents, my 2.5 million constituents, is I have seen the level of academic rigor just drop so far.
Sure.
You know what? Just from whenever I was first elected as a trustee to where I sit now, things that are considered advanced used to be what we would call general population education.
Mm.
And now we're considering those materials advanced. And so just the level of academic rigor, I think I've heard a lot of podcasters and commentators call it the dumbing down of America, right?
Sure.
We're doing our kids a huge disservice in this area, because if you pick up the longest running instructional book for public education in America is called the Primer, Primer. Some people say primer or primer, but it's the Primer textbook. It was
Okay.
used for almost 200 years in America, 150, I'm sorry, about 150 years in America. Okay.
Okay.
And when you open that up, the very first lesson, day number one in public school, was learning the Latin alphabet, learning the English alphabet, and learning the Lord's Prayer in Latin. That
Come
was day
on.
one.
Oh, you can imagine where you go from day one. Wow.
Right. So because it was very important for the children to learn Latin as well as English, and actually most of the lessons were in Latin in that elementary
Incredible.
age. So you cannot tell me, I don't think there's a logical person or a sane person on earth that can tell me that a 6-year-old child in Virginia or Montana or Arkansas or Texas, anywhere in America today, has a lower IQ or a lower learning capability than a 6-year-old child sitting in the colonies of America in the 1600s. Right? Our children didn't change. Our children's learning ability didn't change. Their IQ hasn't changed. What's changed is in education, we have lowered our standards so low.
Yes.
So now our new Bluebonnet materials are returning to that academic rigor. Our new Bluebonnet materials are bringing great works of Western literature back into elementary. By 5th grade, they're reading full Shakespeare.
I
Fourth
see that
grade,
here.
third grade, fourth grade, they're reading C.S. Lewis. And these aren't the cliff notes. They're actually
Mm.
reading the literature. And so that's our goal, is to bring the academic rigor back, because, America, the leader of the free world, Texas, I believe, 7th or 8th largest economy now in the world. Unless you have a well-educated population, you cannot maintain your standing on the world stage. You can't
Yes,
maintain
you're so
American
true.
exceptionalism unless we have a very well-educated population.
Right,
And
because they
so
are the leaders, they are the future, right? And
they
like you said,
are.
they've got to compete against other countries.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when you think about how we educate our children now in America, they are not just competing. Economies have shifted so much, right? We're seeing transient movement now among white collar workers, right? You've always seen that among the labor force and blue collar workers, but
Mm.
now we're seeing families moving regularly in white collar jobs. So whenever think about our children that we're educating now, our future lawyers, attorneys,
Hmm.
engineers,
Hmm.
chemical engineers, right? Our leaders, our future leaders, that now they're going to be competing with children from around the world, from around the globe, right? So when you think about that, we are at a critical junction in
We
education.
sure
We
are.
have to return to the academic rigor, and we have to return to patriotism in education. Our
Ah,
children must understand the greatness of America.
Amen, sister. Wow, this is just so inspiring. This is what we love about this podcast. We talk to moms like you that stepped into the arena and look at the change that you're able to do with everyone else. I mean, the teams, the
Sure.
legislator, the leaders. I mean, yes, but yes, mom, you said yes to making a difference. A small step that leads to greatness. And this is all of us in our homes and in our communities. I mean, so beautiful. Thank you, Julie, again to everyone that's worked so hard on this because this benefits all of us. This curriculum is going to be available for all of us in every state. A couple other things too. Civics will be taught. The Golden Rule, the Bible will be considered a historical document. Is that correct?
That is correct. The Bible is used for cultural and for historical reference.
Well, look at
For
that.
example, I'll give you another great example in the materials. Third grade, when you're teaching, we went what's called cross curricular with this. So we brought in a lot of social studies and science and history into English. So, what I'm going to discuss now is the kindergarten through fifth grade English language and reading. Okay, ELAR, how you teach English class. So, when we teach letters, how to write a letter, we use Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. I mean, when you're teaching a child how to write a letter, I can't think of a more beautiful letter to write or a more impactful letter to learn from. And so Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail references how he's feeling and how he's relating to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel in the lion's den. Well, if you don't have the historical knowledge from the Bible of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace and Daniel in the lion's den, then you don't have any idea of what Dr. King is talking about, how he's feeling sitting in that Birmingham jail. Such a great man of God. And so that's where we went cross curricular. So when they're learning to write a letter, they're learning about that.
Look at that. I love that. I love that. And you've got your history and your Bible intersecting, which is really the greatest place to be, is those intersections of really hope and truth. And it's not objective then. This is someone's story and this is a biblical document. Our Judeo-Christian heritage,
That's right.
they've tried to omit that. And you can't omit that from America.
That's right. That's right. It's at the foundation of America. Whenever we talk about Plymouth, there's always a lot of focus on Jamestown because a lot that happened wrong in America came from Jamestown, but a lot that happened great in America came from Plymouth. And I am so shocked that a lot of people don't know that Plymouth was the very first organized government that outlawed
Mm.
slavery in the history of the world. It happened here in America. It happened at the Plymouth colony. They called it man stealing. That's how they defined slavery was stealing somebody's basically like what we would call identity theft today. It was basically you're stealing somebody's their manhood, their person, right?
Hmm.
And so that's what we want to get back to. We want to get back to teaching kids. We're not trying to avoid hard subjects. We're not avoiding slavery. We're not avoiding the Civil War. We're not
Sure. You're
avoiding
not avoiding
those.
history
We're not avoiding it. We're just teaching it accurately and
and you're not
correctly.
rewriting it.
No, we're not rewriting it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because all of it, all of the good, the bad,
Yes.
the ugly, all of it is what leads us to what the founding fathers wanted, a more
Yes.
perfect union.
Union.
And that's what we have to explain to our children. The greatness of America is that we're not perfect. The greatness of America is that we are continually striving to become the more perfect union.
Union.
And so that's what patriotism means. And so
Oh,
that's what's embedded in these materials.
this is so exciting. Okay, and cursive is coming back. Boy, is that something. My husband said, "Oh, they're taking out cursive for so many reasons," but he always just said that our founding documents are all written in cursive, and then if children don't know how to write and read cursive, then we can't read the founding documents. I know that's one part of cursive, and there's so much other important pieces to having cursive writing. They took that completely out of Illinois here. My
Yes, a
youngest
lot
never
of
learned it. We got to
A
teach
lot of
kids.
states, a lot of school
Yeah.
districts have, even here in Texas, a lot of school districts have taken it out. And a lot, like you said, Illinois has removed it. A lot of states have removed it, but we firmly put it back in second grade. Children are learning cursive again because cursive, like you said, cursive, there's many reasons why you want to teach cursive. I would have to agree with your husband. First and foremost, for me, is founding documents. If you stop teaching cursive, then cursive becomes a dead written language, right? And so if you just extrapolate that to two or three generations further down the road,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have a whole set of Americans that are going to be reliant on AI or an interpreter to read founding documents to them and interpret founding documents. No one will be able to read founding documents for themselves.
Yeah.
So, just looking back on history, we know what happened in history when people couldn't read the Bible for themselves. I think that's when what we call, right, the dark ages, right? It wasn't a good time in history. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is important that every child in America learn cursive just so they can know how to read and write, how to read founding documents. But then also, cursive is such, there's so many scientific studies on learning to write cursive.
For the
It
brain, yeah.
really is great for your brain. It's great for
Mm-hmm.
whole brain development. So there's a lot of reasons why children should learn cursive. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's included now in the second grade. And then also we're teaching character, right? We're when teaching character, kindergarten is the golden rule. Third grade, and we're teaching service above self. We what's taught is the story of Esther. You know, a young lady, a young girl, willing to put her own life on her line to save her people. I don't know how much of a greater story you get of character of service above self than the story of Esther. We also teach the Good Samaritan. So there's lots of great character training also. And again, this is all happening in English class. So this is what happens when you have very rich content in your English classes, that not only are children learning a great vocabulary and spelling and reading and phonics and all the great foundational tools that they'll need to be great lifelong learners, but they're also learning a very rich content that teaches them great character and teaches them and uses great, rich content of Western literature.
Incredible. Any pushback saying, "Oh, you can't have, you got to separate church, the separation of church and state and all this stuff?" Or
Oh, Debbie, yes, about 24 hours of public comment. And my comment back to that almost
Oh,
24
I would have
hours
loved to
between two
seen
meetings
that.
of public comment is, obviously we have missed teaching civics for a whole generation. The separation of church and state is nowhere in the Constitution. And so obviously, I mean, I just took that as proof positive that we need to do a way better job on teaching civics in this country.
I love it. And civics is a part of this, like you said. So amazing. Let's just finish this out now. So the curriculum, where are we at with this curriculum, and is when will it be utilized in the school? I want to make sure I'm up to date on that.
Okay, so because it's such a massive undertaking, the very first pieces that were developed, written, and published were kindergarten through fifth grade English
Okay.
and kindergarten through eighth grade math. That's
Okay.
the very first pieces that have been published. They're available now. They were approved by the Texas State Board of Education 2 weeks ago. They are available at the Texas Education Agency website, because
Yes.
another aspect that was very important to the parents of Texas is that we have full transparency in what happens in the classroom. So everything, the teacher guides, the readers, the worksheets, all of it can be viewed by anyone at the Texas Education Agency website anytime.
Look
So
at that.
full transparency. There will be nothing, if the schools are using the blue bonnet materials, there will be nothing put in front of your child that a parent does can't see first. And so
Incredible. And so
And so
literally this is hot off the press. Love my little pun there, right? So
that's
it
right.
is now ready to go. It's being installed in the schools there and utilized in the schools and other states. What about other states? I mean, I'm sure that there are other states that are looking at this going, I do not want to be a part of the National Publishers Group because we don't agree with this. We have a problem with it. Can other states, schools, what's the process? What do we do? How do we get it in our states if possible? It's going to be hard for me here, but other states are I'm
Well,
sure looking.
all states are welcome. Like I said, Texas already paid for it up front. It is published as an open education resource, which means anyone can go and download it for free. Now, the Bluebonnet instructional materials are not available through an online platform, they are in workbook form. Okay. It was very important for us for children to return to pencil and paper and get off the screens throughout the day.
Mm.
One of the main reasons for that is we want teachers to come back to being the center of the classroom and actually instructing children. You know, when a child is on a device all day, the device is the teacher and the teacher is relegated to a facilitator. And we think that we have wonderful teachers in the great state of Texas that are capable of teaching our children and not being a facilitator for an electronic device. So this goes back to pencil and paper form. It's in workbooks. So what happens is any state that wants to adopt it, they can go to the Texas Education Agency website, download the files, and they can print them. They can print them for their schools, how whatever they want to do with them. They're totally free for anybody that wants it. And it's a full instructional materials set. It is teacher guides, tests, daily work, supplementals, worksheets. It is a full instructional materials package.
So do we go to our but how do we get it to the schools? Can schools independently decide, or is this something that's got to go through a
They
regional
can.
superintendent? Let's talk about that just so moms know.
They can. So, like I said, it's an open education resource. Anyone, private schools, homeschool moms, anyone can go download it for free. It's available right now. But if you want it in your schools, if you want it in your public schools, you need to
Right.
contact your governor's office,
Okay.
or you
Governor's
needed to
office.
contact your state speaker of the House or head of your Senate, right? If you want legislation to require it, then you're going to need you're going to need to pass legislation to require it. But it's totally free. Anybody who wants to use it. Now, let me put this into perspective for the taxpayers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll probably have some people listening to this interview that don't have children anymore, and they're like, "Well, I'm not sure how involved I want to be." Okay, right now in America, the average cost for instructional materials per student is $300 per student.
Mm-hmm.
So when Texas comes out and says these instructional materials have already been paid for by the great state of Texas, any state that wants them, it's free. Think of the benefit to the taxpayers. So this is huge.
It's a
This is
win-win
what we
all the
call a
way
disruptor
around.
in business. This is a disruptor in education in America because
That's
all of
true.
our instructional materials have to be compliant with the U.S. Constitution. They have to be compliant with the Texas Constitution. They have to be compliant with our state laws, which are very strict on what's presented to a child and what's not allowed around children. It ends the woke indoctrination.
This is
But
a disruptor. You are so right, but all on the good side of it. It's been
it
so long
is.
coming.
It is. And I told you I come from a business background. I love the free enterprise system. I love business.
Sure.
So my heart's desire is for these national publishers to jump on board, for these national publishers to jump on board and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to do woke indoctrination anymore. We're not going to teach children that it's wrong or evil for you to own a farm or to own a ranch. We're not
Correct.
going to teach children that it's wrong or it's evil for your family to drive an SUV, right? We're not, come
Or
on,
ride on
let's
an
leave.
airplane. Take a ride on an airplane. I mean,
Right, to
this
go to
gets
airplane.
as goofy can be. Or not eat meat. I mean, it goes on and on what they're
Yeah, tell
trying
our
to
kids
teach
to eat
these
crickets.
kids. Right.
Right. So, yes. So, you know what? I want to invite all of these national publishers. Come on, let's do education right. Let's operate inside the free market enterprise system. Let's end the woke indoctrination and let's get back to basics, raise the academic rigor, use the Bible as a historical and cultural relevant document, and keep all the obscenities and pornography and the surveys. That's another great thing about the
Yes.
Texas
Oh, the
Bluebonnet materials.
surveys. Yes.
No surveys.
No
No surveys. We're going to
surveys.
follow federal law. We're going to follow the Pupil Protection Rights Act, which says it is against federal law for anyone in the education system to ask your child their political affiliation, their political beliefs, their sexual orientation. There's a whole list of things that it is illegal to ask a child without parents given written permission. And so we're gonna, I'm telling you, the new Blue Bot materials are fabulous because they honor our federal laws, state laws, US Constitution, Texas Constitution, and there's no surveys. Nobody's gonna data collect information on your family or your children.
Oh, that data mining is just incredible. And I hate those surveys because you get the kids thinking, of course, is what they want to do and questioning. We did surveys here out in Illinois too, one of the largest school districts, and they're asking the children all kinds of, are you questioning? Do you have thoughts on this and ideas about this? And getting these young children, thinking about things that they shouldn't be doing at school. They should be learning and not trying to figure
Absolutely.
out some kind of gender messaging and some kind of manipulation. So, congratulations all the way around. So exciting. And you know what, Julie, I do believe, and I know you believe this as well. That's why you're so excited. This is going to catch on. This is going to be a
It is.
movement that is powerful in education because parents want this. Parents are tired of the educational system right now. We know it's failed. We know it needs to be rebuilt. That's why the Board of Education, right? All this is up for grabs right now. We are going to make some incredible decisions for our future, for our children, and for America. So thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you to all the people in Texas that have blazed the trail here for other states to apply to have this in their schools. Amazing.
Yes, and Debbie, it didn't happen without the wonderful help from Moms for America. Your fantastic moms. Your Moms for America Espanol actually came and testified with many testifiers
Yes.
before our state board of education, and just did a wonderful job. And from the bottom of my heart, I know we're a little bit out from Thanksgiving now, but I'm telling you, Moms for America is one of the national organizations that I am very thankful for because your moms are empowered. Your moms understand the power of showing up and speaking up and how to protect their families and defend their families. So, from one
Amen.
mama bear to another, I say thank you.
Amen. And that is so true. Our Kimberly Fletcher, our president, jumped right on this. She said, we absolutely want to be a part of this. Had our Texas moms mobilize, be a part of pushing to get education revamped in Texas. And so thanks to our moms, thanks to you, thanks to everyone. So exciting. So there's hope for public education because she's a year or two ago, people would just say, forget about it. It's never going to have any longevity and any credibility. But there's hope now.
Absolutely. There's always hope. If the moms, if the families, if the parents, if we the people stand up and say, this is our line in the sand, this is what we expect for our
Yeah.
children, these are the standards that we have for our children, this is not what we're going to accept. The power is always with we the people. And so just thank you so much for everything that y'all do.
Thank you, Jewel. And again, where do they find this material? What was that website?
It's at the Texas Education Agency website, and it's under the Texas Bluebonnet Learning.
Excellent. Well, this is a great goal for our moms. Boy, we're going to make change in states that our moms are in, that they're listening here to, because I know that some moms just need to be in public education. They appreciate it.
Absolutely.
They grew up in it. They feel like there is hope, but we need to restructure, change, and bring America back to the classroom. And that's exactly what you're doing. So God bless you. So glad to have you. And thank you so much.
You too. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to say two things because people always say, Julie, how did we get here? Like, what was the thinking behind it? And so I just want to encourage y'all two things. Always dream big, right? Think
Yes.
big and never give up. When somebody tells me it's impossible, or someone tells, I know Moms for America believes the same way. If someone tells us it's impossible, that's even more of a challenge to go and do it. So dream big, think big, and never give up.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you for being such a great example. I love it. I love it. So you take care and you keep fighting out there. And I mean, I can't, you're just beginning. I can't imagine what 2025 is going to be like for you out there, Julie.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, the Lord is good, and there's something very big coming in 2025. And I promise you, as soon as I can talk about it, y'all are going to be the first to know.
All
But
right.
there's another mountain to climb and another mountain to take for education, and we're going to take it by God's great grace.
Yeah. Something tells me, yeah, it's going to be big. So thanks, Julie. We appreciate you and God bless. And let us know when the next step is there.
God bless you too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. All right, moms, thanks again for joining us this week. Just another incredible episode. Again, please share this with your mom friends about Julie Pickren and the incredible things that are happening in Texas so you can have change in your state. Alrighty, for more information on Moms for America and all of our other amazing programs, resources, seminars, and webinars, please go to momsforamerica.us. Check us out there. We're here to help you and support you on your journey through motherhood. Like I say every week, we have it all from parental rights to public policy, from the kitchen table to Congress. Moms for America is here for you. All right, moms, let's keep changing our country one home at a time, and I will see you next week. God bless. A special thank you to our sponsors, the Herzog Foundation and Tuvu. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.